Welcome, everyone. It's 2:30, so here we are. We're going to go ahead and get started. We're just going to keep admitting people, but you're here, and I want to welcome you to Collaboration and Communication with Families. I'm presenting this on behalf of Solved, which is an amazing professional development organization. You can check out their website, and this content comes from New York State's TAIL Academy, and TAIL stands for Teaching Across Learning Environments. So today we're going to think about collaboration and communication with families, whether it's in person, online, or in a hybrid format. I just want you to know this is being recorded and you will receive the link to it so you can refer back to it. You also will receive with that follow-up your CTLE credit and any resources that we share today. So you will be getting a lovely follow-up email from our amazing Solved admin here today. I saw her briefly. It's Brooke. She's fabulous. So if you have any questions, you can put those in the chat if they're technology questions, and she can help with those as well as I can try. So I just want you to take a moment and read our meeting norms. I want you to know I lean heavily on this blue one for my part, which is to start and end on time. And I ask everyone just to come with an inquiry stance and to try and be here now. I know you've had a busy day. I know you probably have a busy afternoon ahead of you, an evening. So just take this hour to come in with your colleagues and community, and let's think about how we can communicate and collaborate with our families. So I will introduce myself. I'm Dr. Caroline Hoppenwasser. I'm an instructional consultant for Solved. I have a PhD in literacy education, and for the past 20 or so years, I've been a public school teacher. I started in kindergarten. I've been a literacy specialist, and I trained literacy specialists for 14 years at the State University of New York in New Paltz. All right, so please in the chat, let us know who you are. Let us know the grade or grades you teach or subjects you teach, however you want to share. And then I'd love for you to share today, what's your biggest challenge in communicating with families currently? What's your biggest challenge? And while you are doing that, I'm going to share our agenda today. So our essential questions: how can I improve my communication with families? How can I improve the way I engage families as learning partners? So we're going to become familiar with forms of effective one-way and two-way communication. We're going to do this really cool interactive assessment that helps you figure out the ways you're engaging families as learning partners currently, and then set some improvement goals for engaging with families. So let's see who you are. Let's see how you're doing today. I love to come here and see people from so many different grade levels. I know I've got someone working with 3-year-olds. We've got kindergarten. We've got self-contained K through 1, second grade. Who else do we have? The biggest challenge from Mauricia, and I'm going to apologize now if I mispronounce your name, but I'm a big believer in trying to give credit to people for putting their thoughts in the chat. I want to thank them.
You said it correctly.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, and feel free. You're always welcome to come on and correct me, because my name is Caroline, and I get called Carolyn a lot. And you think that's a small difference, but when it's your name, it's a huge difference, isn't it? All right, the biggest challenge is time for parents to participate in class. Thank you for sharing that. 18 months to 21 in-house. Oh, wow. Is challenging because I have a lot of families K through 8 to communicate with. Yes, Robert. And such a wide range of ages. Wow. Jezebel is a 3K teacher in the South Bronx, and she loves it in capital letters, even though she told me today that by the end of the day, she looked in the camera and she's like, I can't believe what I look like. But if you survive the day with 3-year-olds, you look fabulous. let's see, bilingual. So we have so many people here. Jezebel is struggling with parents completing their monthly family engagement project. Oh, interesting. All right, we've got 9th grade. So what's great about this and thinking about communication, we can have all of these different grade levels together because some of the principles of working with families well are the same, and then you just have to adapt them to your people. We've got paraprofessionals. Thank you for joining us today. Oh my goodness, so many people. My school community can improve communication with families by having more family events. This is what Kelly believes. So let's dig into some of what the research says and do some self-assessment and see where we can go with this today. To help you out, I'm going to share with you something called a note catcher. It has links to everything we're going to be doing today. You're going to open it. I've put it in the chat. You're going to make your own copy. And right now is where we stop and make sure we can open it, that I set the permissions correctly. And I should have in the one I sent you. So just double check that you can open it. And you'll see there's already a link to the slide deck for your review later. And then everything we're going to do today is on this document. So it's your one-stop shop. If you have any trouble opening, just put that in the chat. But if I don't see anything, I'm going to assume we're all okay and we're all able to open our note catcher. All right, so let's go to this. These two statements that I have in the boxes are very similar, but they're also, yeah, the link was shared. I'm just going to pop it in again. There's the link, and Brooke will keep popping it in case people come in. But let's read these two statements, and then we're going to take a moment to stop and jot to think about what's similar about them, but what is different about them. And you can take notes on your note catcher, and then we're going to share. So statement 1 is all families can be involved in their child's education. Statement 2 is I can help all families in my class to be involved in their child's education. So we're going to set a timer for 1.5 minutes, real fast, stop and jot. Similarities, what's the same about these? And more importantly, what's different about these? And why do you think that I've taken our time up here thinking about this? Oh, I see why there's no link in chat. There you go. Now it should be coming to you. Sometimes who I'm sending it to changes without me realizing it. So I apologize. I'm sure that's happened to y'all as well. So thank you for letting me know. All right, stop and jot, 1.5 minutes. What's similar, what's different? Okay, please either put what you've noticed in the chat, or I also invite you to come off of mute and share what you've noticed and thought about in your stop and jot with us today. The more you talk, the more fun this will be for everyone.
I feel like for me, the word involved and the word help, there are many ways that parents could be involved in the classroom, and there are many ways that parents can help in the classroom. But then sometimes I think of like kids who parents have a second language and English isn't their first language, might be challenging for them to be involved or to help out. And it's how you as teachers incorporate not only students with different learning styles, but parents with different backgrounds to be supported in the classroom.
Oh, thank you so much for that. So it's thinking about not just different cultures, but different languages. It's really considering all the ways that your families communicate to help make sure they can find a way into the classroom space. We, as the teacher, can either keep the barrier that's there or help remove the barrier. Who else will share with us today? I'm not seeing, oh, here we come. We don't know every family's circumstances to make this statement that all families can be involved in their child's education. Ooh, Carmen, that's deep. We do know that as educators, we can do our very best to help our class families. Oh my gosh. So Carmen, I'm going to encourage you to come up and elaborate a little bit on that. That's a really powerful statement that you've made. If you're willing, if you're not able to, I understand as well. And anyone who might want to piggyback off of that.
This is Stacy, and I feel with Carmen's statement, she's stating that some families might be not knowing their circumstances. Some families might be in a shelter. Some families might have other situations going on for them to be able to find time to interact in their child's school.
Thanks, Stacy. That's really well said. So when we think about these two statements, all families can be involved in their child's education. We don't know the circumstances that are necessarily preventing what we imagine parents should be doing, because a lot of times as teachers, we're like, that parent isn't involved, that family's not involved. And that is thinking of this parent in the way that we want them to be involved. So I really like that we're thinking about that they might not have the capacity right now. If they're working 2 jobs and they're living in a shelter, when are they supposed to come and talk to us? So then saying I can help all families in my class be involved takes the pressure off of them and puts it more on me. So you're like, you can also say, oh my gosh, as a teacher, I don't know that I can have any more pressure, but we're going to look at ways that can help, because it's never going to be perfect. The school system isn't set up that way, but we can recognize the significance of having self-efficacy as the teacher to really make a difference in this communication that we're trying to promote.
I wanted to, sorry, hi, Jezebel here. I just wanted to quickly share that Carmen's statement was very
you have your
thought-provoking.
charger with you? The laptop.
I was gonna say, because a lot of times it can also be a language. And honestly, it's very difficult to meet a parent where they are sometimes because they're embarrassed or ashamed of their situation, whether it be because they can't speak the language or they're illiterate. And so, you want to invite them in to read a story, even in their own language, but maybe they can't read, or, well, that's when you kind of ask for like a nursery rhyme or something else that they can do hands-on with the children. Maybe have someone translate if they're coming in to read a story. And they can't speak English, but they can read. And it's just very difficult because you hit on a very important factor where sometimes we feel parents' lack of engagement is lack of interest, when in fact they may be a dual income household. both parents work or one single parent works 2 jobs and they're doing the best that they can at the time. And sometimes I know we think it, but it's not in the forefront, and I am guilty of that. So I'm trying to work on that myself with keeping it in the forefront.
Thank you for sharing that, Jezebel. Every human being in the world is guilty of that in some way at some time. So that is okay. That is human nature. And then the part though, where you're very intentionally trying to keep that and your bias in the forefront is the key to this, because there will always be, sometimes you're just going to go, I cannot believe that kid still doesn't have his homework paper in here. Okay, breathe through that. And then let's go to our next step, which is, okay, let's think about the why and what is keeping that from happening for this family. So let's go to what some research has said about how the pandemic affected parent-school communication. So the TAIL Academy, all teaching across learning environments, all came out of the pandemic. At first, it was research to help teachers during the pandemic. And then it was, how do we take what we learned that worked and keep it and build it thoughtfully after the pandemic? So that's where we're coming from with this. And Brooke, could you just pop the note catcher into the chat again? Someone is asking for it, and I want to make sure everybody has it. So according to an Edweek Research Center poll in 2021, more than 3/4 of educators said that parent-school communication increased during the pandemic. So you can think about this, and you feel free to put it in the chat if this is your experience or not. But I was teaching college at the time, and I felt like communication went up exponentially because everyone was expecting it to be online and people had less reason why they couldn't come. So my office hours, people came more. It was wild. So I wonder what your experience was in the public school classroom. More than a third, 37% of teachers said it increased by a lot. Just 9% said school-wide communication decreased. And 79% of educators who said that parent communication increased, including teachers and school and district leaders, said that the upswing in communication had a positive impact on academic outcomes. And that makes sense. Research shows that communication, building trust with families, does have an academic impact on students. So our goal is to figure out ways, like, consider if that was your experience, why, what happened, and how can I continue that instead of reverting back to exactly how I did everything in pre-pandemic. And I'm just gonna, Jezebel, I'm just gonna use it as an example because she said her first year was the first year of the pandemic. So she doesn't have anything to go back to. She can only build on what happened. And so I think if we keep that as a mindset, it actually can be very helpful. All right, so let's think about one-way communication and two-way communication. These are the two fundamental ways that we talk with families, and both have a place. And so today we're going to talk about what they are, what their advantages and disadvantages are. So in one-way communication, the intended outcome is for the recipient, in this case, the parent, to be the listener or the learner. So you as the teacher have something to say and you just need them to know it. And so you may send out a classroom newsletter, or you may have a flyer announcing an event, or you may do a recorded video message, and there's no way for them to respond to that. You're not even asking for that. So the advantages of that are it reaches a large and diverse audience quickly. It doesn't require personalization on your part, which takes a lot of time, personalization. So it's a very easy way for you to get things out. And if the parents are busy, they can look at it when they want to look at it. So what I would ask of you right now is to think about what are some disadvantages of communicating with families to one-way communication. And you can put them in the chat, or you can come on and talk to me. I just want to highlight what Rita says about our statements we read. Rita says both statements are true, but both statements can only happen when we all work together for the best interest of the child. Preach it, Rita. Thank you. Okay, so what are some disadvantages of one-way communication? Oh, Christy, are you trying to come on and speak with us? Christy, if you're trying to talk to us, I'm so sorry we can't hear you. Okay, so here's some people putting in the chat. There's no check for understanding to ensure that the family understood the information. That's a huge disadvantage, Robert. Thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna just pop it into our notes here. Message can go out, but they are not necessarily received or the message is garbled. So yeah, that goes with what Robert's saying. And Julie says, is we are not building a relationship with the family. Yeah, no relationship building. And we don't know if they understand. So you can see that's everyone's getting like, that's huge. That's a huge problem. We can't guarantee they understood what we said. The message may not reach the entire population. Therefore, we don't know if they got it. We don't know for sure if they understood it, and we're not building relationships. So I love that you put, we don't know that we got it, because I'm sure you put things in backpacks that you then in 2 weeks still see jammed down in the bottom of the backpack. That's ages old problem of teachers, right? So, and we can't guarantee they read the email just because we have now new digital ways. So we do have some disadvantages as well as advantages, and that's true with both. That's going to be true with both. So let's talk about two-way communication. It's an interactive experience. It's engaging both the sender and the receiver. We're sharing information so that everyone is listening and everyone is learning. All right, so talk to me. Well, first, let's just think about some examples like individualized emails, personal text messages, virtual in-person conferences, home visits, or phone calls. What are some advantages to two-way communication? Checking in with family. So the advantage is it's a personalized way to check with families.
Also like to keep them up to date and informed.
Beautiful. It brings trust amongst the educator and the family. Yes, it's a great way to build trust.
Is bridging the gap between home and school?
Yes. All of those things that you talked about what may keep families from communicating. If we're doing a two-way communication, we can find them out. We can find out, oh, this family, I know this particular family is working more jobs, or this child is, I see children on there's a road between my house and my university where there's a hotel and students are picked up by the bus from the hotel. That's an important thing to know about your families that you're not going to know from one-way communication. Bridging gap.
The children are aware when there is two-way communication taking place.
And how does that help us all?
The children actually see that a relationship is being built about them or for them.
Yeah, I love that. It also, children of divorce who might say one thing to mama and one thing to daddy, and count on them never talking. This takes that out of that as well. And it makes the family feel involved. So it's building community. And that's what we want. We want to build community. And so with all of these, there's so many advantages, but there are also disadvantages because it'd be like, why don't we do this all the time? Why don't we do this more? Why don't we do this better? What are some disadvantages that you can see as a teacher for two-way communication?
Parents not having boundaries of reaching out at all hours of the day.
I feel like you've had some personal experience with that. Oh, you're getting some yeses in there. Parents without boundaries. Yes, I can totally see that.
But then
But-
also depending on the level of the way the communication is taking place, there can be miscommunication when it's with just words, without the voice and without the. I wish my colleagues were in this meeting because they could help me with articulation.
I totally know what you're saying. So when we just send emails, are all of the body language
Yes,
that we get and the voice intonation that we get is gone. And therefore there can be miscommunication.
Yeah, the
Um,
tone, you don't know what tone or kind of what their interpretation of our wording also.
yes, their interpretation of our wording, and we won't know about it till.
We won't. And sometimes as teachers, we tend to be a little bit more eloquent or articulate on something, and then, we forget we need a little bit more layman's terms in order to be
Oh,
able to
that's so-
adequately
yeah.
teach parent understanding, and you're not sure how they're receptive to it. So sometimes they come back in a different manner, and you're like, whoops, wait, start over.
Yeah, and that happens both ways. So my mother-in-law she was just a very excited person. She sent a lot of emails in all caps, and I had to explain to her, stop screaming at me. And she's like, I'm not screaming, I just love you. And I was like, no. So it's having understanding. We've got to figure out ways to build communication norms in two-way communication. And let's see. I'm going to put one more, and that's time. It takes a lot of your time to do two-way communication. And
I
you
would
have,
add one more,
oh, sure. I would love
Make-
for you to.
making sure admin is aware of the two-way communication
Okay, so keeping admin
in the loop.
in the loop. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for adding that. That's really important. So even though what I love about this is you go, oh, two-way communication, the best thing ever. It's still hard. So communication with families is challenging. So today, let's think about some ways we can improve on it. And remember, everything is small steps. And so here we are. Also, we're coming towards the end of the school year. And what happens at the end of the school year for everyone? Stress goes up. It goes right up. And it doesn't matter what grade level, because in kindergarten, the stress is the little children lose their minds because they're counting down the days to the end of school.
The kids
older-
check out.
Yeah, everybody checks out.
Family.
The older kids are worried because all of a sudden some of them realize they're failing. They didn't know it because they've never paid attention the whole year. They've got final papers and projects. I've got working with kids who are all doing their AP exams. Everyone has lost their minds. So into this, now we're trying to have communication that de-escalates. And it's very hard because you are only a human as well, and it's very stressful. All right, so let's look at this table, and we're going to think about it. I'm going to share some examples, but I just want you to be thinking about, how are you communicating now? What are some things that you do? So this table is on your note catcher here with the examples, but there's space for you as well. I'm going to start by, let's just talk through the examples and think about this in relation to what you do. So imagine you need to notify families there's an art show. There's usually something happening at the end of the year, right? And there's also a virtual participation option maybe. So the purpose is just to share the date and the link. You don't need to know anything else. So the intended outcome is just for families to be aware and to have that link. So one-way communication is the best way to go. So you want to think about, how can I do this in multiple ways now? Because we're back mostly in person, but can we provide things still in a digital way? So we want to think about, is there a tangible way and a virtual way? And then the next part I want us to think about all together is the use of the language that we are using as we send these communications, one way, two way, whatever way you're doing it. Because language, I'm so sorry, I don't remember who said it, but the language is so important. And we do our best to create the message, and sometimes it's misinterpreted, but there's some simple things we can do to help make the message just more inclusive. So I want you to start thinking about and reflect on the use of we, you, and I in any kind of text you create, or even if you're making a video. And so imagine that you're writing this email to share, or you're even making a little video. You say, instead of I want to share your child's work, say we are happy to share. We're making it inclusive. This is a we, this is a team, we the students, we the families. Your child, you are invited, your participation is important. So it's taking me out as the teacher, and it's sort of, I think of it as embracing the children and families. So the pronouns you're using are inclusive or not inclusive. Pronouns matter a lot. So I want you to think about that. And in our next example, it's a two-way communication. You want to schedule teacher-family meetings. So the purpose is to schedule the meeting. The intended outcome is to have a date, a time, and a method, whether it's in person or virtual, and some topics you want to discuss. Well, that's two-way. That's definitely got to be two-way. And is there a virtual option? You can have a scheduling app. You might use a Google form to get some topic ideas. And then again, you want to think about your wording. How are you making this feel like parents are included, not I need you to find a time. Scheduling a meeting with you. We can meet to discuss. You are welcome to add some things you would like to discuss to this form, so I can be ready to share with you. So I would like you to take just a minute and look at and think about either something that you've sent out recently or something that is coming up that you might want to plan for. And again, let's just take a moment to think about how you are planning for inclusion. Holly says, my son's teacher uses Class Dojo, and it is great for those of us that are more or less digitally savvy. Yes, I use that as well. There's so many new things. It's also knowing your families to know which families can use those things and which do not have the capacity to use those things. So for a moment, as you think about that, or if someone would like to come on and share something that they've just sent out or that they're sending out soon, to think about how we can make it very inclusive for families, that would be awesome as well.
So one thing that's coming up is graduation. So we are sending out information pertaining to that, but we're also making it available because we only give out 3 tickets per family. So we're also providing a Zoom link because we had Zoom prior, so that parents who might not necessarily be able to make it in person, or if they have additional family members, they could join via Zoom.
That's amazing. So that is a beautiful example of something that happened for a really bad reason, that we had to start Zooming everything. But what a great way to include people to keep it forever. So if you have space limitations and there's 3 tickets, there are families, huge families, that want to see the whole thing. So that is a beautiful way to make families feel seen and included in such an important event. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else who wants to share before we look at this really cool little assessment that I have to help us think about our families as learning partners? All right, if you have any great ideas, put them in the chat. We're going to move to this. This is, I really like this circle. This is from a resource from eTeach New York, Families as Partners, and it has 3 focus areas where we can build our capacity as educators for engaging effectively with teaching partners at home. So they break it into relationships, routines, and resources. So relationships are the positive connections that foster interaction and establish a nurturing environment of trust and support. They have routines, rehearsed and predictable practices, whether they're in person or online, that provide structure to support efficient and effective learning. So routines are for parents and families as well. Resources, materials, tools, and supplies to support active learning and skill development. So they've broken each of these 3 sections into 3 subsections. And here's what they've done to help people. I'm going to put into the link, into the chat, a link to their resource. And I'm also going to show it to you and tell you what we're going to do with it. So when you open it up, it's an interactive assessment. And here's what we're going to do. You're going to choose, just right this minute, watch. You're going to choose whether you want to focus just in this time together on relationships, routines, or resources. And you're going to go to that section. So they're color coded. So if you chose relationships, you're going to go to Families as Partners, and that's in blue. And what's great is we're going to take a few minutes where you're going to assess yourself in their communication and feedback, their roles and responsibilities, and well-being structures. And what I love about this is when you put in your points, so it says, 1, I haven't thought about it. It's not a priority. I'm considering how to prioritize and change it. I'm identifying a plan. 4 is implementing a plan. And 5 is I've already done this. It's going to add it up for you. So you're going to get a score to see where your areas of need are. So you can do this for each of the focuses. And today you're going to pick one, but then you'll be able to go back and do this later. So today you're going to choose either blue, red, or green. And after you do this, you're going to let us know in the chat how you did. Each one has more information afterwards that we'll talk about. So right now, your job is this. Open the Family as Partners booklet. Choose, I'm going to go to the directions, choose one area of focus. So you might choose relationships, page numbers, routines are green, page numbers, resources are red. Go to that, whichever one you've chosen, and do the 9-question assessment. When you're done, in the chat, let us know, or you can do it on your note catcher, excuse me. I'm going to the note catcher. Which subcategory did you have the lowest score? What connections do you see between the gaps in this area and impacts on your students' learning and engagement? All right, so your time starts now. You're picking a color and you're doing the 9 questions. And then I'm gonna just make this simpler for the reflection. What do you notice? What do you wonder? Oh, Holly says, I see that this assessment deals primarily with remote teaching. I think I can adapt a lot of these strategies for use within the library setting though, and I haven't even started much of this yet other than work on the library website, which no one really knows about. Yeah, it was set up for online, but it can be adapted in so many ways. Communication and feedback, roles and responsibilities. So Mauricia is sharing her score. So what do you notice after you've done your section? What do you notice about areas either that you're really doing well in or that you need to improve on? And we have just about 1 more minute to work on this, and then you will have it, obviously the link, so you can go back and do some more work. But I also have some other resources I want to share with you today. But I'd love to know anyone's takeaways from what they've done so far. So Mauricia is doing it, kind of crushing it in all of families as partners. So that's amazing. But one challenge is not always having time to give feedback on a consistent basis. And parent teachers conferences is the exception. All right. Here is, I want to have time to share these resources with you. So I'm going to open this Padlet and then I'm going to let you choose. You may either continue with this quiz if you feel like this assessment is very helpful to you, or you can go to this Padlet that has a lot of family communication collaboration resources. We have conferencing and co-teaching, we have technology, engagement, and resources for parents. So I'm going to give you 8 minutes and you can choose how you want to use that time and you can split it up, but you're going to use that 8 minutes to extend your learning, either in the assessment or you can come to the communication and collaboration Padlet and investigate. There are a lot of resources that the TAIL Academy put together that I've drawn together on this Padlet for you. So your choice. And then we're going to come back after 8 minutes and wrap up. So I've put the Padlet in, I'm going to put it in again. Rita, I think that makes so much sense, that getting parents to communicate through text, because it's just so easy, but getting everyone to meet for a meeting is so hard. It's so hard. And when there's some way that we all have FaceTime or the equivalent where it's just on our phone really easily, that's going to be the day we're going to be able to talk to parents so much more simply than we can now. All right, everyone, if you would like to take a moment to, I'm going to share my screen again. Think about this slide. Based on your learning today, what is one goal you can set for yourself for communication or collaboration with families between now and the end of school? And then I also have a note, keep it simple, be kind to yourself at the end of the year. So based on what you've learned today from the assessment, from our discussion, from the Padlet, what's something that you can do, one small thing you can do? And I'd love for you to put that in the chat or unmute yourself and share that with us as we come close to the end of our time. And I promised we would leave right on time today. Deanna has shared that one of the things that caught her eye was the 5 strategies for a successful parent-teacher conference, because she feels like the parent and teacher need to work together to make the student succeed. So that is a really, there's some really great strategies for that. And we also, I'll share with you some other classes on families we have that Holly shares the digital trends article is really interesting. So how to use social media to reach families. The goal is to know better by students, families, or caregivers, prioritize being partners with families in problem solving. Holly, I hear you about being worried about being too visible in this day and age. And so, yeah, how to really thoughtfully, if you're going to have a digital presence as the teacher, what does that look like? Because if anything goes wrong on there, you're right, the whole world will see it and it will never go away. Get to know what the family's dreams are for their children. Christy, I love that so much. I love that. That is in another class on families. It's really thinking about that I'll share. We did last week, but we'll do again. It's like what we think we know about students, but what we're making assumptions. What do the families really want, and how can we find a way to connect those? How to improve parent involvement after COVID at the center. So I love that you have a lot of things you want to work on. So just remember, we're at the end of the school year, so you have to be super kind to yourself. And then make a plan for how to start implementing more of these changes when you gear up. So when you're setting up school for next year. One goal is to remain patient, because as discussed earlier, not every family has the same situation, some more challenging than others, some more needy, and those who are just nonchalant about their child's education. So I love this so much. Remain patient. I feel like that could be our t-shirt we wear every day as teachers. Remain patient with the parents, remain patient with the students, remain patient with ourselves. So I'm gonna leave it there. You can keep reading, people are sending things in, but remain patient and give yourself grace. So I just wanted to share this with you. We have 2 other family engagement courses that are free, and I know school is ending soon, but the TAIL Academy through SOLVE will be back next school year as well. So all these courses and others from the TAIL Academy will be offered in the upcoming school year. So we have engaging parents, and we also have thinking about equity and access. And all of those build into collaboration and communication, don't they? So on your note catcher, you have the link to where you can register for more PD from Solved, this free PD. And you also have this link, which is to our professional development survey. Where's my link? Okay, so that you can let us know what was helpful today, what we might could do better, because we're always looking to improve. So if you would take the last few minutes here to open this link and fill out this very brief survey for us, we would definitely appreciate it. And I will end with a reminder that you will receive a follow-up email with your CTLE credit, your recording, and a link to this note catcher. So in case you lose anything, it will be there for you. And now you are free to fill this out and then go about your afternoon. I hope it's wonderful. Thank you so much for participating. It always makes this fun for me to do with a group as lively as this one, with a lot to say and share. Thank you so much, and best of luck at the end of your school year. I wish it to go very smoothly for you.